Hello there, welcome to the Talking City podcast coming to you from the Manchester Evening News. My name's Joe Bray, joined by Simon Bajkowski, and we said in the last episode we don't know what we're going to talk about. It's an international break, but there's been news and we've found ourselves back again, and we do have a question, or a request, let's say, for you listeners. We need to hear what you have to say about City. We have a big survey going, and we'll be talking you through that shortly. Before we do, we've had a few updates this week, not necessarily on the football side. Let's start with the fixture news and the Carabao Cup clash against Watford. City play Arsenal at 4:30 on the Sunday, then they're at Newcastle at 12:30 on the Saturday. So naturally, City are playing Watford on the Wednesday night. It suits everybody, right? Si, please.
Absolutely absurd is, I believe, the phrase Bernardo Silva has used, and yeah,
I think that's putting it lightly, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it doesn't sort of inconvenience the fans too much, really. Like, it don't make much difference whether you turn up on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, but for the players, it's just ridiculous. And there've been a lot of responses from fans of other clubs who are like, "Well, our City can cope. What are you moaning about? Play the kids or whatever." The kids are actually in action as well that night, I think, in the EFL Trophy. But that's beside the point. The point is that it's just football authorities who don't care about player welfare enough to ensure that players are looked after. And it's City this time. It could be Liverpool or United or any other club next time, because now there's a precedent and they can be like, yeah, let's do that. So it's, it don't make much difference to our lives, but it's pretty stupid to expect kind of the squad to be able to do that. Yeah, City probably can put out a team that's fully different from the Arsenal one, and it'll be pretty good. It's not really the point, because they shouldn't, they should be able to choose whether they want to do that rather than it being a necessity because of health reasons.
Yeah, I think that's what City will say, and it's interesting that Bernardo's brought it up on international duty. So, I mean, he's not one to shy away from criticising the schedule. He was absolutely furious when City had 3 days between playing Real Madrid and Chelsea last season. So 2 days, I think it's 49 hours between full time against Arsenal and kick off against Watford. And I was just one of the many sort of hypothetical solutions to the problem was switching it. I don't know if it was discussed, or it just felt like they couldn't play that on the Wednesday because of the United game. I'm just glad they didn't switch it to Vicarage Road. I didn't fancy a midweek drive down to London. But the issue was UEFA want to make a big deal of the Europa League and put it across the full week. So they've put United on the Wednesday because they'll get more TV views, presumably, but probably without checking anywhere else. And GMP understandably don't want to have all of their officers covering two different football games, one with a European following as well. You can understand it from their point of view, but when you've got the TV companies and the Arsenal game on the Sunday, and then it just feels like a lot of big authorities not bending and insisting that they're not going to move, and City are in the middle of it and have had to be the ones to compromise. And yeah, it felt like there wasn't an obvious solution without City being inconvenienced.
Yeah, and City could be the benefits of other fixture issues in that City UEFA are making a big thing of the Champions League the week before, and City are at home to Inter on the Wednesday night, and because this new format means that each competition gets 1 week where all their games are showcased, Arsenal are away to Atalanta on a Thursday night. If I was Arsenal, I'd be fuming that I'm being made to go to Italy for a really tough game on the Thursday night before I'm at City on the Saturday in a Premier League game where, if you lose, there's going to be real questions about Arteta and Arsenal for the simple fact that they've lost, and then, they will be like 5 points behind City maybe. But I think, those are sort of a concern. But when it's actually like you have to play 2 games in 3 days, 2 games in 3 days is not fun at any stage of the season. But when it's at a time when you're probably playing 3 games a week, sort of all the time, for a number of months, like it's a problem. Bernardo raised the fact of the extra Champions League playoff potentially as well. Like, he's already thinking about if they finish between 8 and 24, 9 and 24 in the league, this Champions League new league phase, they will have to play 2 extra games on top of that in February. So, it's in players' minds, and when you schedule 2 games in 3 days, it's in their legs. So, City not the only ones to be who have reason to be unhappy, but I think they have, reason to be uniquely unhappy with the what is being presented to them. And it's Watford at home in the Championship. It could be a much tougher fixture, but again, that's not the point, because would it be any different if it was, if they were playing a much tougher team on paper? The competition rules won't be any different. So, that shouldn't dictate the level of sympathy or understanding they get for it.
Yeah, it feels like a very avoidable situation, and one that is probably only an issue because UEFA changed the format of these competitions this year. But there's also an irony that the Carabao Cup sort of seeded the draws to avoid a fixture clash with the teams in Europe, and then straight away City are at the centre of it. I think especially this week we saw that FIFA Pro report of just how much teams are playing, and they were even saying the better metric for workload on players is if they're included in the squad, because they've still got to get themselves up for the game mentally and do the warm-ups and the travelling and this, that and the other. Having City at home for both of these games, having 2 games 48 hours apart, there's no time to rest. And I think Bernardo said it as well, they're not with the families either, and you can sympathise with that, with sort of in any line of work. If you've got 2 massive events and you're away from your family, then that's an issue as well. So I think it's all coming together, maybe where there's just a bit more talk on how many games City are playing, and I think we can expect Pep Guardiola to have a word or two about it when he speaks to the media next, and he might be getting that fridge out that he has normally sort of reserved for the end of the season, but he'll have to bring it out a little bit earlier. Another story today, Si, you've been all over this one, the parking charges for disabled fans, and just before we started recording this, you've posted the article that the fans have won. It's sort of a common sense has prevailed, even though it's another example of an avoidable situation in the first place.
Yes, you have to be careful there. I think the club would say that it is the next phase of their parking policy, but
Okay.
Essentially they were charging fans. Well, they haven't charged fans since 2003, and then weeks before the season they said, yes, we are charging disabled fans for accessible parking from now on. Every match day it will be £6 a pop. A lot of people unhappy with that. Some fan groups clubbed together this week to fundraise, raised over £2,000 in just about an hour, which is just over a day, which is about the money that City would take from every spot being filled on a match day. And then City have said that they were so happy with the number of spots filled on a match day against Ipswich, because it was an issue, and everyone agreed it was an issue that people were booking spaces and then not turning up. City are happy enough that the charge acted as a deterrent to do that they are refunding anyone who paid against Ipswich, and from now on, starting against Brentford, people will still have to pay £6 to reserve a spot, but if you turn up in your spot, or if you let the club you can't go, you will get your £6 back. So essentially, you will only get charged for disabled parking if you don't turn up to your booked spot, and any money raised from that will go to City and the community.
Right. That's, again, common sense is prevailing, but yeah, maybe all part of the bit of a strange master plan to sort the issue.
Yeah, I think the important thing is that disabled fans were hit with a bill of about £150 or more, because it's 19 league games plus 23 plus 4 Champions League games plus the Watford game is 24, which is just under £150. If you add on any more cup games or Champions League games should City reach beyond the group stage, it's well over £150 that disabled fans were facing a bill of, which they weren't expecting, and some will be able to pay it. A lot of people are struggling. A lot of people struggle with the basic principle of we need accessible parking, and you could say just don't go, but these people want to turn up every week to support their team, and the support of the whole team will be diminished if we start saying, yeah, don't go then if you can't afford it, and the crowd will be lesser for that. So I think it's the right result, and I think if hopefully the capacity can stay pretty full with this deterrent of if you pay and don't go, then it costs you £6, because £6 isn't much. Some people it is a lot for other people, and hopefully anyone who's booking it is thinking, I can't afford to lose that £6, or I don't want to lose that £6, and everybody wins. But however much the club have listened to the fans on it, we were not the most well. We sort of laid our cards on the table and said it shouldn't be the case, and that fans were not feeling valued by the club, and now fans should feel more valued from the club. And whatever mistakes were made in that first policy, whether anyone would admit they were a mistake or not, it can only be a good thing that, like you say, common sense has prevailed, and a club has listened to fans and has changed something accordingly. So yeah, hopefully a nice ending to the tale.
And also other fans raising £2,000 for people they don't know and just people who are negatively affected is nice and a good thing, and hopefully that money can go to a good cause as well. That's a positive that has come out of it as well.
Yeah. Well, like I said around I sort of said around the fixture thing, like City can field a very good team while making loads of changes against Watford, but they shouldn't have to. And City fans have been amazing in raising funds for disabled supporters, but they shouldn't have to. The club have always insisted it's not about money for them. It's always been about this issue of no shows for parking. And now the money is going to City and the community. That makes more of the point. But yeah, it's just it's not just a City issue, it's an issue everywhere. But City have a really proud reputation for looking after and caring for their disabled fans, and their disabled fans were feeling less cared for as a result of these charges, and now they're feeling more cared for. And those disabled fans can now say to anyone who cares to listen, like, yeah, I don't have to pay for disabled parking at my club. And that's not the case at like probably half the clubs in the Premier League, I think. Some clubs charging up to 16 quid. So like it's the right result, and hopefully a sign of more right results going forward.
Yeah, I think I'm glad that there has been a positive resolution, because it was threatening to be a bit of a like you say, there's been a positive relationship between those fans and the club, and it would have been a shame if that was tainted. But hopefully we're at a stage where everyone's on the same page, and as ever, just focus on the football. That's it for our news for our sort of impromptu podcast. The reason we're here is because we've launched a big City survey over this international break, and we want to hear your views on what you think are the big issues, mainly football related rather than off the pitch. But we can think of something's important and write about it a lot, but if you guys don't think it's important, then what are we doing? And we can change our tack. So we're going to go through the questions, and some of them are more straightforward than others, but let's see. And then we'll encourage you to do the survey and let us know, and add your vote to those numbers, and we can adjust our reporting going forward. So the first question is, how happy are you with how the transfer window went? We discussed this in a previous podcast. It was a good, not a great podcast we sort of decided on, but I don't know, if people at home think it was a great window, then we're in the minority side.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? I think the transfer window looks better when you look at the table and see City are top with 3 wins from 3.
Yeah.
maybe when judging the transfer window, you have to sort of value in that decisions are taken to retain all the players that are retained and have taken them to 3 wins from 3. But you sort of have to judge on what they, what they want and what they wanted to get and things like that. And there was a bit of indecision at times, it felt, and they haven't strengthened too much. And the squad is still very small. Like, for all these competitions to come, there's a good chance or a significant chance that, you know, injuries could scupper City's chances of success in the competition or in multiple competitions. But yeah, I think, did you give it a 6 and I gave it a 7?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, I can completely see why fans would be really happy with it. I think the mood around the transfer window is very much dictated by results and performances, and they've been pretty perfect.
And I think it was at Arsenal they made a big signing, and then he got injured in his first training session, and you don't see any benefit from that signing.
No,
until
United
that
as well.
player's back. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you think, well, actually, it looks like it's a bad window, but they've got that player on the books, and it's just unlucky as well. I think the answers to those questions will correlate with the answers to the next one. Where does City still need to strengthen in January? I think people saying they had a good window will say no, they don't need to. People saying they had a bad window will have an idea of, we need a holding midfielder, we need a striker, and that's, it's sort of the ongoing question, isn't it? Do they need another support for Erling Haaland? I think the Watford game will answer a lot of these questions for us. Like, what is their plan B?
Yeah, I think the Haaland issue is the biggest issue, because I think if you know, any other position on the team, if they get injured, there's someone else to fill in. There's not a like for like Erling Haaland replacement, because he is nobody can fill in for him. But especially with Alvarez gone, it's not clear what plan B would look like. And if you are without Haaland for a set length of time, you're probably going to have to either alter the way you play with your existing squad or bring someone in. I think bringing in cover for Haaland is probably the likeliest move in January, but I think more likely than that is that City don't bring in January.
And they will have Oscar Bob, who's another player to add to the ranks as well in January, which is, you can sort of treat like a new addition or a new option, because he's not played all season.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Pep said towards the end of the window, he said, oh, maybe we got it wrong and we'll strengthen in January. And you think, oh, right, okay. And then you sort of think back and you think, yeah, he always says that. And they never strengthen in January. And it's because they've never got it wrong. So, yeah, that's probably going to be the case this season.
I think on the same theme, Cheeky said, we're happy with the balance in the squad, which is they're happy with the options, and it might help them having a plan B for Haaland that isn't like for like and is a false 9 or a more direct, or 2 number 10s or whatever they plan to do, is sort of gives defences another option to prepare. The next 2 questions are quite closely linked as well. How happy are you with City's owners? How happy are you with Pep Guardiola? I would expect these would be quite firm in the very happy answers. Yeah, I can't think many people are unhappy with Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, I think Pep was orchestrating the away fans at West Ham at the end of the game for his tune, and Sheikh Mansour's tune got an airing as well. So yeah, they're going to be among the highest in the league, I would have thought, for sort of fan satisfaction with both manager and owners. Yeah,
but again, if we say we're reading the waters completely wrong and everyone's not happy with Pep, then I think we've got a bit of thinking to do. But yeah, it feels like Pep is one of the most popular managers that you could possibly hope for, because he wins everything.
Yes, yeah. But I mean, as well as winning everything, he has won everything in style, and it's been in his style, but it has been in style as well. And you know, he's grown into this orator who will defend City in press conferences, and you know, he's kind of, you know, he's become a blue, hasn't he? So everything about him over the years has made him more and more popular and likable. So you know, he's probably more popular now than he ever has been.
Absolutely. I'm very interested to see what the next question will turn up. Who would be City's most important contract renewal? Guardiola or De Bruyne. I would personally lean towards Guardiola because De Bruyne is getting older and won't be at City in 3 years' time, for example. Guardiola is the one you want, but De Bruyne's probably the best player who's ever played for your club. You would love another season of De Bruyne, especially if, say, Guardiola goes and you want a bit of continuity.
Yeah, I mean, without a second of a doubt, Pep. It's got to be Pep. Like City have done a very good job at moving on from great players, and De Bruyne is one of the greatest they've ever had. We're talking statue territory, and it will be 10 years next summer that he'll have been at the club. But Guardiola is just at the heart of everything, and City wouldn't have won what they'd won these last decade without Guardiola, but they might have won it without De Bruyne, or they might have won. They would have won more without De Bruyne than they would have won without Pep.
You say statue territory. What pose would De Bruyne get? I think the company and the Aguero and the Silva you can understand, but I'm not sure what. He's not got an iconic pose unless it's kicking that cup away at Arsenal or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Or sort of, hands up in the air in frustration, or
that's it. The image of De Bruyne I get is him with like really red cheeks and just moaning about something.
Yeah. It's you would just have him, about to release a killer ball, wouldn't you? You'd have him sort of in the action, ready to sort of split 5,000 defenses.
I think for Guardiola, you've got to have him on his knees when an opposition's attacking, nowhere near the box, just preparing for the worst.
Yeah, or like in his dugout, like he was at West Ham before the game, just preparing for the worst.
Just head in hands, moaning before orchestrating a very comfortable win.
Yeah.
I mean, international break topic for the ages. That what statue would ex-player or manager have? Which Premier League rival are you most worried about? There's a comedy answer in this one. There's Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United, and other.
I think it has to be Arsenal. The really boring answer from me would be it's Arsenal until it's Liverpool, because Liverpool have started really well and looked great under Arne Slot, but you can't. It would be a gamble to say them over an Arsenal side that have pushed City really, really close over the last 2 years and appear to have strengthened further this summer. Arsenal should be better this season with their experience and with the additions they've made. And it's kind of on City to hold them off again. However, with Arsenal dropping points against Brighton, there's a good chance that, City win in a few weeks, they could go 5 points clear, and that will put a bit of pressure on Arsenal because they've not, Arsenal really rarely chased them because it's usually them being ahead and City roaring back to take them over. So I would stick with Arsenal, but I don't know if you would do the same.
I would have said Arsenal, but I don't want to base it on just 3 games, but Liverpool they don't just look good, but they look like they've got a point to prove, and they look a bit cocky, and Salah looks quite good, and Trent Alexander-Arnold is winding up United fans, and I don't think they had to be very good to beat United, but it was one of those sort of statement wins against United, it felt, and yeah, they're probably disappointed in what happened last season when Klopp left, and if Slot can get a tune out of them quickly, then yeah, who knows? So that one, I don't know who you would most be worried about. Arsenal have the momentum and the familiarity, but yeah, I don't think Liverpool are going to be as far behind as maybe we said a month ago.
No, what I liked about Liverpool is that I saw sort of a few Liverpool fans saying this afterwards, but that sort of Klopp would, as amazing as he was for them, would go to Old Trafford and treat Old Trafford and United with the reverence and respect that the history of the club deserves. And Pep was kind of guilty of this for a long time. And Slot kind of said, no, you're playing this bunch of lads that aren't very good or aren't, are a shadow of the team that used to be there. So just go out and play them and run rings around them instead. And it was kind of like no respect shown towards United, and they just treated it as a training exercise. And You know, that is it made it all the more impressive. I guess where we've landed at is that City have to treat both of them as very good, and it'd be a 3-horse kind of race until it isn't.
Yeah, the next one is where do you think City will finish this season? We discussed that before, and I think it's champions. If
Yeah,
if nothing else goes wrong, potentially something that could go wrong is the next two and the final two questions. How worried are you about the 115 charges, and what do you think the outcome of the charges hearing will be? I mean, we keep saying this, nobody knows. I think that one of the options is no punishment. I would suspect that the Premier League will get them on something, even if it's the minor non-cooperation. But it will be interesting to see what fans think of that. Are they less worried now after Leicester have got off for a technicality? Is time helping? What is the mood among fans, and do they genuinely fear relegation, or do they think it's just going to be a slap on the wrist and a fine that City can absorb?
yeah. I mean, I can completely see how people could be not worried at all because it just wouldn't be on their radar, and it's not what you think about. Contrary to what sort of a lot of people think City fans are or should be thinking about. But anyone who does think about it has to be worried for City because it's not in their hands. Like anyone who goes to court has to be worried that the situation will not turn out in their favour. It's a risk going to an arbitration hearing because you might not get the result that you think you should get, or the result that you get 99 times out of 100. So, you know, there has to be some degree of worry because the consequences and the punishments will be so huge. I'm sort of the view that, yeah, I think they'll get done for non-cooperation and they should get a heavy fine, but not a points deduction for that. But I'm, not really sure that they'll get done for any of the more serious allegations, which will create the perfect storm of everyone saying City are guilty because they've been fined, and City saying, well, we've not been charged with any of the serious stuff, and everyone's pre-existing biases continuing.
That's what I'm worried about. There won't be a concrete red line drawn over it, or a black and white line. Sorry, it'll be just another way to argue a point that has been made a lot, just with a different angle to go at it on. I'm interested in the results of that answer particularly because a lot of people care about these charges, but it feels like City fans are just like, well, we'll wait and see. We'll see. We can't control it. We're winning things, and no one's taking those memories away. And I think Guardiola said that in his program notes at the start of the season. It was there's a defiance. So yeah, we're keen to represent City fans as much as we are to get the facts straight in a world of sort of a lot of people talking nonsense, I would say, about the charges, about things we don't really know. If on any website, on any article on our website, that survey will be there. If you put in your thoughts, drop in your email to get our newsletter, you will be able to have your say, and I'm sure we will bring you the results of that survey. We'll be back next week ahead of City versus Brentford, I believe. Already in the international break, I've completely switched off. We'll be back there. As ever, please like and subscribe. Drop us a comment on YouTube, and any questions we'll do our best to answer. And yeah, fill in that survey and we'll see what you think. Thanks a lot.